we got a voicemail probably almost a couple months back now that I've wanted to put on the show, but it just didn't really fit in anywhere yet. And although we're working on, and maybe I'll throw it in when we do the episode as well, but this is from Amanda in Oregon, and she sent us voicemail after listening to it was the Paranormal Paramedic. That's a hard one for me to say. Paramedic Paranormal. A lot of para action. Anyway, this is a voicemail from Amanda in Oregon, who left it to us after our Paramedic Paranormal episode. I'm not gonna get that right, and I'm done trying. So I'm gonna hit play, and we'll discuss.
Hey guys, I listen to your show all the time at work, and I am a medical professional. Kind of going along with the paramedic side of things. The amount of residents I have here on hospice who tend to see people in their room that aren't there, it's almost a daily occurrence. We just kind of gotten used to it. I won't even go into the amount of Snapchat filter AI pictures that have been off that people have taken around my facility, but
weird.
We like to believe in life after death. I know the skeptic won't like to hear that, but I don't have any proof either, so maybe they won't care.
She talking to me?
Yeah, I've got a few other stories for this type of genre, and then some also just based in Oregon, where I am born and raised, mainly in the forest on the coast. There have been multiple family incidences of kind of what was that? Yeah, we don't say the SW word or the native form of that word in my family, but
Scott Walker.
I don't really know how else to explain some of the things that people have told me and I've experienced also. I might call back and elaborate, but yeah, I heard a paramedic story you guys just posted, and as you were saying, you would rather like to hear about people coming to others in a different form of like being in like a light form. I just want to be here to say that like that is hardly ever the case.
Checks out.
Trauma is one of those things that lingers, so that's something you guys can think about. All right, keep it up. Thank you. My name's Amanda, and I live in Oregon. I don't know if that matters. Thanks, guys. Bye.
It always matters, Amanda. Oregon sounds pretty dope.
Yes, we want to come see the Skinwalkers.
Wow. She's like, we don't say the SW word. And Christian's like, we want to come see the Skinwalkers. Either way, it's fine. I'm trying to picture what story she's referring to. You think it's that opening one that you did on the Paramedic Paranormals? The one where the car crashed and the guy comes like hobbling down the hallway.
Oh yeah, that was.
And we're like, why can't people just come in like a form of light and be like, it's good here, we're great. So I guess that does kind of make sense that it is just trauma. You know, it's a traumatic event, and yeah.
Do you ever think of how traumatic it is being a human?
Do I think about it, or do I just live it on a daily basis?
Well, I mean, we live it, but I mean, part of keeping our sanity is maybe not focusing on it.
And then that explains a lot about my sanity.
And then, you know, it doesn't, we don't really think about it until the afterlife, and we hear about these traumatic events that leave an imprint in time and in people's minds. And sometimes they come back.
Yeah. Sometimes they do. Amanda, we're so thrilled that you sent in that voicemail. And like I said, that is a series along with the police and the paranormal that we want to get into even more. And so we do ask people that are in the medical professional field or law enforcement field or anything like that, if you've seen something on the job that you can't explain or that you'd like to share, even if you want to do it anonymously, leave us a voicemail at 801-997-0051. Or drop us a line at the gang at thefreakydeaky.com, and we will be in touch. You know, if we get enough actual listener stories that have experienced these things on the force or on the job or whatever, then we can make an entire episode of listener stories in this field, which would be absolutely amazing. But I know personally, there's some of my favorite stories, and we talk about that police and the paranormal story often.
Right.
That one, the ghost guy that kept running. That's just such a wild story. And for people that haven't listened to the podcast, maybe I'll link it in the related video for this when it comes out. But the Cliff's notes of it are pretty much cops are chasing after a guy. He ends up smashing his truck or whatever. The cops witness him get out and continue running, and so they chase after him. But he disappears, like going down this tunnel or something like that. And essentially, the cops are like weirded out. They go back to the truck, and the guy's inside, and he's not alive. So they essentially, it has plagued our minds since we heard that story that even in the afterlife, when you're like thrust into the afterlife, you can still feel like you're running away from something. You can still like try to run away from the cops. You can like, it's a weird thing to kind of wrap your mind around that, and I guess kind of like what Amanda said, that trauma, you know, it's pretty strong.
Mark.
Yeah.
And that's still one of my favorite stories, even though it's kind of morbid.
Yeah.
It's just like, why would what's left of this person in the afterlife be running at that? I mean, we hear the stories all through media and history about how you see this white light and loved ones come to get you. And maybe that's not the case for everybody.
Is that my grandpappy?
You know, a lot of people don't have anybody that loves them or feel like they don't in this world. So not only do they turn to a life of crime and running from the cops, but because they don't maybe have somebody to come pick them up after they die.
Yeah.
They're still running from the cops or from whatever.
Yeah. I always picture like, you know, sure, when the adrenaline's running or whatever, let's say you get in that accident, you're no longer on this plane of existence. You're running from the cops. Like, at what point does it transition into, oh, I've passed away? And then what's the next? Like, unfortunately, we don't get the tail end of that story. Like, what happened to that guy after that? Like, is he stuck living in almost like one of those time loops that we mentioned, where he is doing this constantly, where it's a traumatic event that he's just stuck in now? Or did he like pass on? Did he realize, oh, there was a light after all this running or all this? Like, I don't know, man. It's such a wild story that it's probably one of the few of this show that has just stuck with me. And it wasn't even like terrifying like a lot of the stuff we cover, but it was interesting to the point. It just makes you think.
I disagree. I think it's absolutely terrifying.
Really? That
you die and you're still running. I want there to be
like a peace,
that bright light, and peace. But it's not always the case.
It's time to come home, Christian. The devil. No.
It's warm there.
It's time to come home, Christian. Come to Pappy.
As long as he gets me in the winter, Alaskan winter.
That's true. That would be a benefit.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, like we do want to build these particular series out a little bit. And I was kind of even talking to you earlier about how I want to reach out to the Wasilla Police Department and see if anyone on the force locally
is willing to talk.
If they've had any experiences. I'm not saying that every cop that has ever worked, you know, the beat has a weird story, but I'm sure a lot of them do. Like, it seems like something that you're constantly driving around town. You're constantly going, and like there's abandoned buildings that there's reports from, all kinds of stuff that you have to investigate. Yeah. Yeah. You're telling me you're not going to see anything weird that you can't explain. And so I'm hoping, I'm sure they're just going to respond with, this is the police department. Can you please, this is a serious matter. Can you keep your spooky ghost talk to yourselves or your weird converted garage? And I'll say, yeah, of course. But I am going to reach out and just see if anyone has had weird experiences on the force and they want to come onto the show, either video or audio. We can keep it anonymous, you know, do whatever makes people feel comfortable. But I would love to hear some more stories about from police officers that have experienced just wild stuff like this, you know.
Can I send a quick message out to somebody that might be able to provide stories?
You can do that.
Jason, Chana, let us know what you've seen.
Yeah. Yeah, you know the one. You know who you are. Does he watch the show? Well, you may or may not get this message, Jason. That's fine.
No, he has watched it. I remember I sent him the Paramedic one.
Well, there you go.
Because that's what he's done. And
yeah, topical. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah. So
isn't that interesting? And so, yeah, if you haven't watched or listened to that episode in particular, do check it out. I will link the actual episode to this video. So you can just click it on whatever the YouTube related video is and you can check it out for yourself. And if you have stories, whether by you personally or you know someone that works in the paramedic field or the medical field or law enforcement field, and they have paranormal experiences that they'd like to share or would be willing to share, have them send it into the gang at thefreakydeaky.com or leave us a brief, I think up to 3-minute voicemail at 801-997-0051.
I would actually like to hear some theories from our listeners on why trauma matters in this case. Because
yeah, that would be nice.
We don't really, when you watch anything ghost related, we know that there's trauma involved in a lot of these cases.
Sure, yeah.
But they don't really delve into it too much. And I think like the secret is in there. What's causing this is in that trauma. And why is it going to affect something in the afterlife?
Yeah, and we kind of touched on that briefly with, like, we talk about stone tape and stuff and why things would replay on the earth as it being a traumatic event. Like, if the earth is this living, breathing organism or filled with living, breathing organisms, just like we are, it too can be affected by that kind of trauma. And maybe that's what is playing out that we view as like, oh, that's ghosts or whatever, like Civil War or any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And these are all things we're going to cover in the future of the show. If you do not listen to the podcast, new episodes drop every single Thursday wherever you get your podcasts. Check it out, The Freaky Deaky, and we think you'll enjoy it. Follow us on social media at Freaky Deaky Pod, at TFT Paranormal on TikTok. We'll see you next time.